Welcome to Soul Patch Music Productions presents Trading Fours, a podcast that's part Blindfold test, part Hang, and just a little touch of Game of Thrones. My name is Vahagan Kachaturian, and here are the 4 rules of Trading Fours. 2 artists select 4 tracks each to share with each other. At least one track must be composed, performed, produced, or arranged by the selecting artist. The artists will have no prior knowledge of each other's selections, and the podcast will conclude with the 2 artists trading fours on a blues of their choice. Our guests are award-winning composer, pianist, band leader, and educator Kerry Politzer, and multi-instrumentalist, band leader, award-winning pianist, and Portland State University professor George Colligan. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this first historic episode of Trading Fours. So thrilled to have 2 wonderful people, Kerry Politzer, George Colligan. Thank you for taking the invitation.
You're welcome.
So glad you're here. Partners in music, partners in life, living in Portland, raising 2 wonderful young men together.
Yes.
Am I correct? This year marks your 20th anniversary.
It will.
Marriage and 25 years together.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Congratulations. That's beautiful. So you both grew up in Maryland, but didn't meet each other until years later when you were both in New York.
It's kind of a roundabout story.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the serendipitous way that it happened and how music played a part.
Okay, this is my story. So I was living in Boston after graduating New England Conservatory, and I was kind of like a miserable administrative assistant at an ad agency.
Oh my gosh.
And so I found out about this jazz piano competition in Indianapolis, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to audition for this competition. And I ended up getting into the finals, and at least 4 of the 6 finalists lived in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, maybe I can move to New York too. And it just so happened that I stayed at a host family's house who had hosted George the previous 2 and 4 years ago. And then the guy, he was a dad, and he's like, you really should hear this guy who was here before. And I was like, oh yeah, right. And because I'm very picky about music, and I still am. I was then, and I still am. And then I heard the tape, and I was like, oh wow, I actually really like this a lot, and I'm actually kind of jealous of this person's playing. This is really, really, really like what I would like to play like, because I was coming from classical to jazz, like a lot newer at it. And then I bought his first album, Activism, and I would listen to it at my miserable administrative assistant job and just, try to figure out what he was doing. I played it for my teacher, Charlie Benakis, at the time, and I was like, how can I learn how to play like this, So it was kind of interesting. So then I moved to New York, finally. I quit the advertising agency administrative assistant job. I moved to New York, and then Ingrid Jensen, very well-known trumpet player, called me for a session. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Ingrid Jensen, because I was playing with Diva a little bit. So I went over to her loft, and George was sitting on the couch, and I said to myself, how can I play in front of this person? And Ingrid was like, oh, but you guys could play 4 hands. I was like, no way, I don't want to play in front of him at all. And for the longest time, I would not play in front of him. And then eventually, he's a great drummer. So I started playing with him. But I was always nervous about it because he was like, kind of like my favorite pianist.
Oh.
And but I still won't play duo piano with him.
Well, so we actually... did we meet there, or did we actually meet for the
Brooklyn? No, in Manhattan. You were playing with Buster Williams at Bradley's.
Actually met. I was playing at Bradley's for a week.
Established.
That's the first time we actually met.
Yeah, so I went and saw him, and I think I tried to talk to you, but you're like, who is this woman? And then I left, pretty quickly.
You were on a date, I understand.
Yes.
It was like Yeah.
George remembers.
Yeah, it was not, yeah, it was, I don't know. And then it was just, we left in a hurry and I wanted to hear this really great music and Bradley's was an amazing club. And yeah, so that happened. Yeah, that's the first time that I saw you was playing in Manhattan. But I had been listening to Activism for months and months and months.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when I heard her play, I really enjoyed her playing, and some people have told me they think that she is actually a much better pianist than I have. They've told me right to my face.
No, they're
And
just
I'm
like,
I
just
agree.
like trolling him because how guys like to be like,
Well, like I said, it's not a competition, and I am always very impressed with her musical abilities. I mean,
Amen.
I think
But-
she has a. Anyway, I mean, I can give
kind
you.
of does everything, and so I'm always just trying to find like my niches and do my own thing, which is kind of. I mean, I've been listening to him forever, and I don't want to sound like an imitation of him, even though I really admire him a lot. And so I've gotten into a lot of other stuff, like Brazilian music, just some concentrations and vocalese. And now I'm playing flute, although you minored in flute when you were
can't play
music
flute.
ed major
Oh,
at
man,
Peabody.
really?
He's like, oh, I minored in flute. And I was like,
But I don't remember how to play at all. I
Yeah.
just did it for music ed. But Carrie has done a lot of she studied with Charlie Benakis, who's one of the heaviest teachers. Lots of amazing people studied with him, and she studied with him for even when she moved to New York, she was studying with him via correspondence. And just a little bit of a window into the stuff that he was showing her is really interesting. And also, she's done a lot of transcribing, way more transcribing than I have.
well,
So-
you didn't need to.
Well, but it's good information, and so the other thing too is I think I came to piano late. Maybe you came to jazz a
Very
lot later,
late.
like sort of out of nowhere, like right in college, like you hadn't really even heard.
Well, I
jazz.
had to do something because I had such severe tendonitis that I couldn't play for like 5 years. I got to New England Conservatory and I had to stop playing. So then I heard jazz and I was like, wait a second. So maybe there's something else I could do. So instead of playing, I was just listening for a year. So I did come to it late. And then I don't think they even really wanted to let me into the jazz department. So.
Oh my gosh. Kerry, you touched on this just a little bit. That was actually one of my questions. You collaborate together quite often, at the piano and George on drums. You've never done or considered doing a piano duo. I love piano duos. It's, in fact, one of the things that I was fortunate enough to hire, to book George for was that piano duo. Gig with Randy Porter.
Yeah.
I see that
Amazing.
poster in your office.
It's tricky because I think the hard thing about piano duo is that it's like and I found this with Randy, but we figured out a way because I'm trying to think of all the piano duos that I've done. I've done a few over the years. I did one with Orrin Evans that was really fun. I used to have a DAT tape of it somewhere. That was really cool. A few years ago, Helen Sung came through. We did a couple tunes duo. The thing with Randy was really awesome.
I saw that.
I'm trying to think. There have been some other gigs. But it's like, the thing is, piano sort of occupies a space in the music. And anytime you have two of the same instrument, they have to sort of figure out how to negotiate it. If you're just covering each other up, that can be it's a lot like, the whole thing with comping. Like if you have a pianist and you have a guitarist, and they can be in the same space, and so they have to just figure out a way to not get in each other's way.
Yeah, which is I think about like Cesar Camargo Mariano and Homero Lubambo. Like they have all this stuff worked out where the voicings are just like perfect, and nobody is ever clashing with anybody else.
Right. Charlotte and Winnie Rosnes, they do a lot of, I thought maybe a spousal piano duet might be in the works.
Never say never. Never say never, but it's just, it feels a little bit too obvious. Like there's a promoter in town who we wanted to do something at the old
he wanted
church,
us to play
and
at
he really
the
wanted us
same
to do
four hands.
Oh, yeah,
at
four
the
hands.
same piano.
That's even worse because
Yeah,
you're not only taking up each other's musical space, but you're kind of in each other's space.
Yeah, and we have a small house, and we're already trying to get out of each other's way.
You never, even at home, you don't play piano duos together?
Never.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think we've ever done
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about about the piano, your music of choice, your voice. Kerry, you come from a strong classical background, like you said. You took classical music all through childhood.
Yep.
New England Conservatory on a classical piano scholarship.
North Carolina, well, I didn't have a scholarship, but
no,
I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, and I went in for classical piano. I went there like when I was 14, and then I got to New England Conservatory, and I thought I was going to continue with classical piano, and then it just didn't happen. So I briefly tried to enter the third stream department, where you could kind of do a mixture of different musics, and I auditioned for Rand Blake, and I think that they just didn't see it. And so then the jazz department was like, well, you don't sound very advanced yet, but we'll let you into the department. And then when I got there, I had the most amazing ensemble teacher. Jimmy Jufrey was my very first ensemble teacher, who was incredibly encouraging. And then I also had John McNeil as an ensemble teacher, who was also very, very encouraging, because when you're a kid, you're like very fresh and you're very sensitive, and it's really important that a teacher encourages you. I had some other experiences that were not as encouraging, but I would have to say John McNeil and Jimmy Jufrey, and then Charlie Banakis and Bevan Manson were very just instrumental in helping me build confidence as a classical pianist who couldn't play and was trying to take on a completely new genre.
Yeah. And George, you recently described yourself on a podcast as a self-taught piano player, which is kind of just mind-blowing.
Well, so I think of it this way. I did have a month's worth of piano lessons, maybe 2 months. That's when crazy. I was little, when I was like second grade. A lady named Mrs. Shockley used to come to our house, but it didn't interest me. I just did one book and kind of was like, but we had a piano.
Was it classical piano?
I wouldn't even call it classical. It's just very basic, just like, da, 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 that type of thing, so, but I didn't get it. I didn't practice. I didn't want to do it. And then I took up trumpet in 4th grade, because my father had always wanted to play trumpet. He liked Harry James, of all people, and he was forced to play clarinet as a kid, and so he was like, you should play trumpet. So I played trumpet, and I had a weird band director in elementary school, and I wanted to quit. I didn't really enjoy it. I was too shy to quit. I tried to quit, and the band director was like, "You're pretty good. You should play next year." And I was like, "All right, fine." And then I was taking lessons with a guy who had toured with Maynard Ferguson, Gary Daly, and I used to go to his house. It was a very dingy apartment, and at one point he said, "I'll keep taking your parents' money, but you need to practice." And I was like, "Oh, he's a jerk." And then I went to middle school, and the band director there was a guy named Lee Stevens, and he was totally inspirational. And so I kind of owe most of my career to him, because he really got me interested in being a better musician. But I was playing trumpet, and I took a summer music class where they played various records for us in a music appreciation class. They played Herbie Hancock Headhunters, Clifford Brown, The Beginning and the End, Weather Report, Heavy Weather. There was a Clark Terry record, and so I started really getting into listening, and I would go to the library and sign records out of the library. And I mean, my parents had a few. They had some classical records and some show tunes, soundtrack like My Fair Lady and stuff like that. Some Barbra Streisand, Judy Garland, whatever, and. But then there were some jazz records. My father had some Oscar Peterson and like I said, Harry James, Louis Armstrong. And then a neighbor gave me some records. He gave me Milestones, and he gave me the Dizzy Gillespie record that has all the bossa nova stuff on it called New Wave. There was an Art Farmer Donald Byrd record that he gave me, and so that and signing out records from the library. And I mean, it wasn't like today where you can just listen to any song at will. What's funny is Ron Steen doesn't believe that every song is on Spotify. He doesn't believe it. He's like, well, do they have this record? Yes, they have every record. But what about this record? Yes, they have it. Like, he still goes to the library and listens to CDs. Yeah. It's crazy.
But there's a lot of stuff that isn't on there that I'm finding.
I mean, you can't have everything, but you could never get bored on Spotify.
That's true.
It's too much. It's almost too much. So in a way, there were just certain records that I listened to over and over and over, and I feel like that helped me in a way that a lot of my students, they listen to a little bit of one and then they listen to a little bit of another, and they never really absorb anything. Anyway, so I started listening to records, and I mean, to kind of cut to the chase, I wanted to prove myself on trumpet, but it just wasn't really in the cards. Whereas I got into drums, and then I'd always wanted to be a composer, so I started getting into piano just for writing music. And then when I was doing my college studies, classical trumpet and music ed, I would get frustrated with my trumpet playing, and then I would just sit down at the piano, and I was like, oh, this is a lot easier. And I learned I learned just like a handful of songs on piano, and then I got gigs all of a sudden. It was that way in Baltimore and DC. Like, they heard, I would go in and play Cedar Walton's Bolivia, and they'd be like, "Oh, where have you been? I have gigs for you." Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sort of lucky in that sense. Like, jazz piano, kind of found me, and I just kind of ran with it.
So you two represent like the two different schools of thought. The classical way and the self-taught, church bandstand kind of way. What would you say are the pros and cons of each approach to becoming a jazz pianist? Is there is one better than the other?
Well,
is there a difference at all as long as you get to your eventual goal?
It all depends on what you're trying to do, and.
But I do think that your experience was invaluable. I mean, but I think if you are not lucky to have that experience, one thing that you can do is to play along with records. I think people who are going through like a school kind of a program, maybe, they might not do enough listening. And so
they definitely don't do enough listening.
When I got with Charlie Banakis, we listened to a different person, a different thing that I would have to transcribe every week. So, and then I had to play along with every recording, try to get all the nuances and the articulation. And that is a way that you can kind of enter into the world of the music if you don't have access to Gary Thomas and all of these other cats that you can play with.
Well, here's the thing, and I mean, I'm sort of being a little flip, but I like to say that one of the problems with jazz is that you actually have to listen to it. And, so a lot of students, a lot of people, they like the idea of jazz, but they don't necessarily have the patience to sit there. And jazz is not like a lot of contemporary music that has a lot of visual things going. MTV came out when I was a kid, and it's like, music goes in your ear and video goes in your eye. So you can really keep those separate if you want. Like, music, to me, music should be listened to. Like, if musicians should be presentable, but to me, once you get into the visual thing, it's a different medium to me. If you're listening to musicians based on what they look like, that doesn't make any sense.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
So for me, I think that students and whomever, you have to have the patience to sit there and listen to it, and that takes time. And so, like, you could go to jazz school and you could get, all straight A's. I mean, but you missed something if you don't, like, just have the reference of listening to music in your brain. You know what I mean? And most really good, all the best musicians that I've worked with, they love listening to music. I don't know if you know Janice Siegel. She was with Manhattan Transfer. I did like a 2-week tour with her many, many years ago, and just going over to her house, and she was just like, "Oh, check out this record, and check out this record," going over to Jack DeJohnette's house, and he is so wide open in terms of the things he listens to. I mean, it could be classical, it could be Indian music, African music. He's into everything. He just loves to listen to music, and he knows more music than people realize. Like, he can sit down and play like Philly Joe Jones, or he could sit down and play like Max Roach. I mean, and he knows all these tunes on piano. So, like, there's a depth that you get if you start to really you have to have that curiosity. You're sort of like, oh, what's going on, rather than having it given to you. I will say that and Kerry is an amazing classical pianist, and that's beautiful music too, But I think I have nothing against European classical music. I went to a conservatory, and certainly Stravinsky and Beethoven influenced me quite a bit. But I think it's just the way that it's presented, the idea of it. Like, you can just be given a score, read this, but the question is, what are you really learning? So in jazz, we have to really know the building blocks of our music in order to, in addition to knowing records and being able to read and all these things, but we also have to create new music, So,
but I think you're right about the curiosity. Like, I talked to George about, jazz education a lot. And one thing that I think I was really lucky when I was going to college is that I was in Boston, and we had the most amazing musicians coming to play all the time. And I would just almost every single night I'd be at Riles and the Regatta Bar and Scullers, seeing. I saw Miles Davis at the Opera House, like one of the last performances that he did. Like, I saw McCoy Tyner play with Bobby Hutcherson at the Regatta Bar. I saw Jerry Allen's trio. Like, it was very, very seared into my brain because it was like during the Iraq War. And there's just so many amazing concerts that I saw, and I was always going out to the Willow to hear George Garzon with the Fringe. I was just so excited about music, and I always wanted to hear what other people were doing because I wanted to absorb it. And I do think that being curious about other music going on is really essential for your development as a musician.
Plus, one of the things that makes great musicians, and again, I've noticed this from all the people I played with, is that they're not, listening to records or live music or whatever, but also being able to listen on the bandstand to each other is really important. In fact, that's more important than just being able to play, because you could play. There's lots of great players that don't know how to listen. They play. That's one of the dangers of classical piano, is that you spend a lot of time by yourself.
By yourself, yeah.
So you can play by yourself, but when it comes to playing with others, you could potentially have no idea. One of the things I liked, one of the first important people for me working with was Gary Bartz. He has a bunch of videos about how he talks about the importance of listening, and he said Miles used to he'd hire people, but he would just have them come and listen to the band. He wouldn't let them get on stage, and they'd be like, I want to play, and Miles was like, if you can't listen, I don't want to play with you, And so I think that was one of the special things about his band. It's like he got people who knew how to listen to each other. And certainly when you listen to any of the great bands of his, but particularly the second great quintet, it's like they all just ears of gold, It's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. It's fascinating stuff. Kerry, I wanted to talk to you for a second about one of the aspects of your music, the Brazilian music. You have studied this music in depth, and you still continue to study. You were a student of Grammy-winning, renowned vocalist Luciana Souza at New England Conservatory.
Yeah, she was a TA.
Do you remember when you first heard it, or when you consciously realized it was something special for you?
Well, it was during her ensemble. She was a TA, graduate teacher at New England Conservatory, and she's also the goddaughter of Hermeto Pascoal. So really, I had this life-changing week where Hermeto Pascoal and Jovino Santos Neto, who lives in Seattle now, came in and did a residency for a whole week. But it was more than just a residency. It was us hanging out all the time and going going out to eat and going to these big, beautiful parties at somebody's house where there'd be a big jam session, and then Hermeto would just be writing music all day long, and he wrote a song for me, actually, that I ended up playing in my senior recital. But it was just, I actually cried when they left, because it was the most wonderful, one of the most wonderful weeks I can remember of, I didn't feel so alone that week. And when I got to New York City, I started studying with Vanderlei Pereira, who's a really great Brazilian drummer, and he had samba class. And first he had us come in and play percussion, then he taught us about the samba cell and machixe and choru and a bunch of other stuff. And he would get very in-depth with the rhythms. Like, he wanted to make sure that you absolutely absorbed every single rhythm before going to another rhythm. And he would have us perform in his house as a quartet. So we would have a bass player and a guitar player, and then he would teach me and the guitar player how not to get in each other's way. And we went into bossa and all kinds of stuff, and it was just very, very, really doing like a deep dive into every rhythm. So I was really listening to a lot of Brazilian music all the time. Like, my very first album has a bunch of Brazilian rhythms in it, although I'm not that happy with that album. I'm still always listening to Brazilian music all the time, and at the 1905, our local club, I have a band, Bossa PDX, where we focus on a different Brazilian composer every month, and I listen to arrangements. I have really been trying to get into it, and then also I'm a big fan of Tanya Maria, who does a vocalese thing where she's playing along while she's singing and playing, and so I've started integrating that into my playing, and now I'm trying to play flute, and hopefully I'll get that integrated also. But yeah, Brazilian music is definitely a lifetime love of mine.
Wow, that's beautiful. Actually, I was hoping we'd have some time to do this. I wanted to play one of your Brazilian tunes. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
You have a whole bunch of them kind of scattered around in different recordings, and you have a whole Brazilian album, the Diagonal.
Yeah, that was a tribute to Durval Ferreira, and that was because a lot of Brazilian cats in New York play his music. It's very bebop-y.
But the one I wanted to play was the tune Brazilian Accents from your Blue and Blue 2010 record. Anything you want to tell us before we listen to it?
That started out as a Charlie Banakis exercise. Charlie would give me some different things to play with every week so I could try to write another composition exercise. And maybe I won't get into the technical details of the exercise, but that I can tell you some other tunes of mine that started out with this particular exercise of his that I would do every week. And I really like Donnie McCaslin's playing on that track a lot, because that was really a pleasure to have him on the record.
The great Donnie McCaslin on the saxophone, George Colligan on drums, Paul Bidry on the bass. Was Saida one of the exercises, or was that a separate tune?
No, Saida actually was a song that came to me after some personal losses, and it's a very poignant, and I think it's one of George's favorite songs.
Beautiful song
that I've written. But it's a kind of a sad song about losing a friendship.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Here we go, Brazilian Accents from Kerry Politzer's 2010 album Blue and Blue.
Thank
15
you.
years ago.
I know.
I guess my playing hasn't changed at all.
I don't know. I was trying. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, it's a great composition, and Carrie tends. At least my impression of her writing is that she just writes everything at once. Like some people are like, oh, I write the melody first, then I add the chord. I think for her, it just kind of all comes out at once.
Interesting.
It depends, kind of, but yeah.
But also her, when she plays, her touch is really clear, and she has a really strong sound. I know that piano, that recording was, I believe it was
New Jersey.
It was out in New Jersey, Skyline Studios, an engineer named Paul Wycliffe, who's like amazing, and it's a great studio. And I was sort of thinking like, I think I've improved as a drummer, but also I don't. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Like, I don't know.
I remember
it's like,
I
as we
struggled with the piano a little bit. I remember
Really?
the action was like a little bit. I think I'm extra sensitive to action just since I used to have physical problems, and I think it was a little bit heavy for me. Like we played early spring chill, and I just remember. Don't you remember that I was having like a little bit of issues? No.
You prefer light action?
Yeah, I'm a Yamaha person. I think
This was a Yamaha.
It was.
I'm pretty sure it's a Yamaha.
Okay,
I
well,
could
you're
be wrong,
probably right.
but anyway, it sounds great.
Do you have a favorite recording of each other's?
Okay, so my favorite recordings of George's are the whole Spanish flamenco, the album, the Como la vida puede ser, the whole flamenco album of yours. Like when I first was hanging out with you, you were doing all of the little demos for that on your Ensonic keyboard and sending them to everybody in Spain. Perico Sambead, was it Mark Miralta? And that album is like the most beautiful thing ever. I love Activism because it's the first album I ever heard of his, but that Spanish album of his. But there are so many good things that he's done. I mean, Mad Science with like Oregon. I don't know. There was a beautiful album that he did called The Newcomer for his a girlfriend that he had a really wonderful Spanish pianist named Mercedes Rossi, like beautiful composer, beautiful pianist, and he did an album of all of her compositions. There's so many beautiful amazing work with Gary Thomas and Ancestral Wisdom. I love that track. I don't know. There's like so much I don't even know. I mean, he has like over 30 albums. I don't even know what I would choose, but. Yeah, the latest album that he just released an album with Jack DeJohnette and Linda
It's
Mahon.
coming out
Owen's
soon.
Whirlwind.
It's coming out soon.
Yeah, incredibly
Live at the Jazz Standard.
beautiful. Like what can I say? I mean,
the thing is, I play on a lot of her records.
Yeah.
There's the one that I think is called Labyrinth, right?
yeah, with Andrew Rathman.
That one I like. She did a singer-songwriter record that was
no.
really great.
No, it was not great, and I actually was so embarrassed by that I took it out of streaming because it was before
It's really good.
before I had actual
Really
singing
good.
lessons, and so
Doesn't matter.
No, it does.
It doesn't matter.
It really does. So yeah, you can't hear that anymore. But now I had got some really wonderful singing lessons with this wonderful teacher who actually left town and moved to Nashville. But she helped me out a lot with pitch, which was an issue. So.
I tend to agree with George. I think
No, I'm embarrassed.
there's some of that hidden online.
No, please take it down. He won't take it down, and he won't take down. Our older son is. There's a video of him,
I thought I did take it down.
the one where he was 2 years old and he was talking about an amplifier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he wanted you to take that down too. Yeah, our 2 years old, our older son was extremely precocious at a very young age. He he used like 4 syllable, not 4 letter, but 4 syllable words when he was like 2.
Intellectual.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, George. You're a young man, but you have so much experience.
I'm not young anymore.
For as much experience that you read your biography. It's crazy how long you've been on the scene, being so young. You came on the scene around late '80s, kind of the tail end of the.
Well, I started playing
lads.
I started playing gigs in Baltimore and Washington late '80s when I was a Peabody student. I didn't move to New York till I was 25, so that was 1995. But I really got a lot out of the Baltimore, Washington scene from, I would estimate, 88 to 94, 95. And because there were a lot of great players in the area and just tons of gigs. Just, you know, I could have probably stayed in DC. I don't know what the scene is like now. I don't think it's the same, but like I was working 7 nights a week. If I wanted to work more, I could have. I mean, just endless singers and restaurant gigs, and I just picked up the phone and people were calling me, you know. And so that's how I learned to play. Like I didn't have jazz school. I mean, I went to Peabody, but you know, Peabody's a classical conservatory, and I thought, well, I want to try to be like Wynton Marsalis, which wasn't going to happen. But, you know, I had a friend named Alex Norris who, he's in New York now. But And he, I would just kind of follow him around and learn from him. And again, listening to records, trying to figure it out myself. And eventually when I saw that piano was probably going to be my way in, I really started working hard. And so from like 91 to 95, I practiced and played gigs, and that was about it. You know, I just worked really hard because I did want to go to New York, and I could see that. Like back then, there was a lot of hope, and if you were a young musician playing straight ahead jazz, it was like you could move to New York and have a career. You know what I mean? And so now things changed, kind of around 9/11. Like it started to kind of take a different turn, but. I actually wrote a song called New York in the 90s because it just seemed like such a great era. Like it wasn't as expensive now. I mean, and New York was a lot safer in the 90s than it had been previously. And
my rent was $550 when I moved there.
Amazing. Wow.
So.
Yeah, there's a whole other, and there's just musicians, you could just go out every night and hear music, and you could play sessions, and you could and I was going to Europe all the time, and it was fantastic.
Didn't seem as stratified economically. Like now it just seems like there's no middle class left, you know. But, you know, we survived in, you know, living in Park Slope and paying rent, and before it was just... you know, lawyers and stockbrokers living there. Like we were musicians.
Yeah. How about the music scene in New York today versus the 90s? What would you say is?
I think it's been hollowed out a lot. Like, I don't even know how people like survive and.
I mean, there's great players. A lot of younger players that I don't know. It's maybe more competitive in a way because there just isn't as much to do. But there's. I mean. It doesn't compare to Portland at all, and I mean Portland is what it is, you know, just like any city that isn't New York. I mean, like, for example, here you have the PDX Jazz Festival, which people get excited about. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff happening, but that's daily. That's every night in New York. You could go and if you time it right, you could probably go to 4 different amazing shows, and it could
still
be
like that,
right?
Yeah, you could go. You know, if you wanted to start. Maybe you go to the Blue Note and you walk up to Birdland, and then you go to Smoke the late
if
set.
You have the money.
Yeah, I mean it's very expensive, and you see most of the younger people at Smalls because it's cheaper, you know. But like Smoke, for example, you probably aren't gonna leave there without spending at least $100 if you get food. So
there's always new places opening up.
And there's new places opening up. I mean, it's and there's more, like, just the heaviest cats are there. So it's I feel like every musician should every jazz musician should spend at least a little bit of time in New York just to see, you know. And I don't know, I mean, to say every musician should move there, I couldn't say that. I mean, even somebody like Nicole Glover, who has had a lot of great success, like I always knew that she was going to be good, but I couldn't predict. You know, no one can predict. So I was like, you know, I know you want to move to New York, but maybe just go there a few times a year. Maybe just and soak it up while you're there and then come back. Like, but she figured out a way to have it. Yeah, she had a day job selling wine. And then she would busk in the park, in Central Park, and she made a living. And then now she's playing with everybody. It's insane.
Craziness.
She's amazing.
So speaking of Nicole Glover and Alex Norris, New York in the 90s, that's actually, it was on my list of the next tune I wanted to play. And you kind of covered everything I wanted to ask.
Okay,
That's great. Great instincts. Yeah, so this is from your 38th, this is your latest, that's actually out in 2024, your 38th
I think so.
album as a leader.
Who remembers?
Amazing. Yeah, some people remember online, right? It's documented. The album is called You'll Hear It.
Yes.
No relation to the podcast thing, right?
No. I mean, this is something that musicians often say.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll hear it.
Don't worry, you'll hear it. So some heavy hitters on this one.
Yes.
George on the piano, Nicole Glover, Alex Norris on trumpet, Kush Abade on drums. Amazing. And you did the 1905 release too, right? I think.
Yeah,
Alexander Claffield.
I've known Kush since he. I think the first time I heard him, he was 14. Because I used to play gigs with his father, Nasser
Abade, yeah.
And Kush, even at 14, he was amazing. I mean, he's amazing now, but at 14, he was really good. I mean, so he's a prodigy, and a great guy. So
yeah. So here it is, New York in the '90s. It still inspires you, obviously, at that time and that place. From George Colligan's, You'll Hear It. Well, there's like 1,000 other things I wanted to ask you. We got to get to the blind. There's one last thing I wanted to leave you with. This is a quote by a young philosopher, modern philosopher. I just wanted to get your thoughts about this. It says, love is in the atmosphere. You breathe it every day. For religion, for
He knew it.
peace and war.
He found it.
It never goes away. That's the words of the brilliant.
See, even lyrics
Kerry
she's great
Politzer.
at.
I know. That's such a slamming tune. I can't believe you don't like it.
Oh my gosh, you listened to that? Oh
Yeah,
my
that
gosh.
was I was planning on playing next, but with your permission, I won't if you don't.
No, you can
don't.
if you want. I mean, I guess that was the track on that album that was the most successful.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of other things on there that really, like, I'm rather embarrassed by.
Oh my gosh, what?
Okay, if you want
That was 18 years ago.
I mean, look, I did a singer-songwriter record. I didn't take it offline. I mean, and it
Gotta
definitively.
stand by your word.
I mean, and my singing just blows, but it's still, I mean, most great filmmakers, they have duds, I was going to say Woody Allen. I don't want to get canceled, but I know he's controversial. But I've seen that's let's say Alfred Hitchcock. You know what I mean? Not all of his films are perfect. You know what I mean? But so it's just the process. To me, artists, they make art and then they say that was good or maybe that wasn't so good, and then they just go on to the next one.
That's right. Well, this is hardly a dud. For
Okay,
sure.
well, I'm glad that you like that because
Yeah,
I kind
I
of
haven't
disowned
listened
that
to
album,
them.
but I'm glad
That's
that
the thing. One person's
my
dud is another
gosh,
person's
yeah.
masterpiece.
Oh, it was such a.
I mean, maybe
George-
Beethoven hated the Fifth Symphony. I don't know. I was like, this sucks.
George played really good drums on it.
I know
so.
George is on that. The great
actually-
Lonnie Plexico.
Lonnie Plexico,
bass.
Well, that whole album, there was like a
Tom.
lot of weird stuff that happened. We had this engineer who
Oh, yeah,
was
he got
arrested. Yeah, there was a very colorful story. And then he
He attacked somebody. I think, right?
and he showed up like he'd
Oh
been
my
in
gosh.
jail all night, and then I was like, you know what, I have to take this project back from this guy and give it to somebody else to mix because it was getting really crazy. Yeah, there was
Wow,
all kinds
this
of stuff
was
that
in New
happened.
York.
Yeah, a lot
Wow.
of interesting stories associated with that album.
But any thoughts about? Are you still that optimistic about love, peace and war, and religion, or have the years made you a little more cynical of everything that's going on?
Well, I guess I
do
kind
you
of
think?
feel like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm going to be philosophical or spiritual or something for a second. But if there is something great and beautiful out there, it's out there for everybody, no matter who they are and what their religion is and what their situation is. There's like the one that can, be home for all of us.
That's right. All right. Well, let's conclude this interview section with this great tune. The link's going to be in the description. Everybody go check it out. We're going to make this the summer hit. This is Kerry Politzer on vocals and words and music and keyboards. George on the drums. Lonnie Plexico on bass. Tom Gordon on guitar.
Yep.
Here is Love is in the Atmosphere from You Took Me In.
Recording quality is pretty good.
Yeah, for a guy who got arrested.
This is Big Red Memories.
I live day by day, always kept the future out of sight.
This is a good song. Come on.
Great, it's great. It's my theme,
All my
basically.
girlfriends say, gotta start myself on Mr. Right. But I don't need to settle down. I know love is all around. People act like it's so rare. Why do I
We should do this
see
in
it
the next
everywhere?
We should definitely do this.
That is why I say
Next year we're doing
love
a
is in
song.
the atmosphere. Breathe it every day. For rich and poor, for peace and war, love is in the atmosphere. It never goes away. Hey, maybe I'm a fool, but I
track is solid.
I can't believe you found that. So
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Oh, that's great.
And the whole record has great songs on it.
I gotta
great
find
stuff.
it. I gotta dig it out.
well, yeah, like I said, I took it back, but I got a bunch of singing lessons now, and hopefully, maybe I would do a better job with it. So, I don't know.
We're doing that at the next gig. Or I walk.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a positive message for
Yeah,
our times
it
of division and
It is
separation.
indeed, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's we're really all the same underneath all of our differences. So
Yeah, that's great too. Well, let's get on to the blindfold. Let's see what you got.
It's not a competition.
We should have like a marriage therapist
No.
on standby.
No.
yeah, I told him, I'm like, oh, what are you gonna do to me? Because I think mine are all pretty easy.
Oh, I
You
don't know.
you
I
can't
don't
prepare
know.
for
No.
anything like this because
Okay.
it's
We'll see.
Okay,
I feel like as long as you guess each other's, I think.
he'll know everything because he knows everything. So
All right. Well, let's start.
you will.
Kerry's tune pick first. George, you ready?
I'll go first.
Professor Colligan?
I'll go first. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll listen
you
first,
listen
yeah.
first. Okay, you ready? Let's do this.
It's McCoy Tyner. No, just kidding. Sure I know who it is, but I just want to listen to it because I think I recently listened to this. I think it's Nicole McCabe. This is her most recent album, I think.
Wow, nailed
I mean,
it.
she studied with me, so.
Right.
But and she's one of my favorite players. So, but I listened. I found this recently because she's put out a lot of albums now since she's left PSU, and she's got a beautiful sound. She always had a really good sound, but she's just really grown. I mean, she's in LA, but she's touring the world. I mean, she's doing great. I always used to joke with her that she was the other Nicole, you know what I mean? Like, and I only take students named Nicole, you know. But, you know, I mean, and Nicole Glover is amazing, but Nicole McCabe too, because I love alto. Like, I wish I could play alto. I think if I could do it all over again, I would have played alto, because there's just something about that. Like, tenor is great, but sometimes tenor can be a little woofy for me, whereas alto, it has that, you know, it's kind of closer to a tenor range. It has a little bit more edge. And of course, I played with Gary Bartz, you know. But Nicole, you know, I've been very fortunate to have some great students, and she was really one of my favorites. And also somebody that I hired, you know, like I was just like, you just need to play and to just see how it's done. And so you know, I'm super proud of. I mean, she's doing stuff that I wish I could do. You know, she's headlined at North Sea. She's doing a 3-week tour with her own band of Europe. She's very successful. I mean, and for a young person, she could go farther, but she's doing really more than most people. I mean, she's a great teacher too. So. Always very serious about the music, and she's a great composer. So stuff like that is really, it still has links to the jazz tradition. She can play standards.
Right.
You know, what was it? Was it this last year? I was in LA, and I wanted to do some extra stuff, so she she booked this little duo gig for us to do somewhere in, I don't know where in LA, some neighborhood. I took a very expensive Uber to get there, and she brought a keyboard. This keyboard was jacked up. I was like, oh, I thought there was a piano. This keyboard, I think it was like 61 keys. The sustain pedal didn't work. The power didn't work. She had to. Somebody was at the club that hooked up they had to go get some tools to make the keyboard work. And I was like, man, this is going to be terrible. But once we got the keyboard going and we started playing together, I was like, man, this is fun. Let's do it again. Because she's such a really good player and really intuitive. That's the other thing, too, is her and Nicole. Like, I've had students who, like, there's students that you, like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do, and you have to explain it to them, and they're like, what do I do? Oh, you do this. What? Do this. Okay, I'll do it. What? But, like, Nicole Glover, Nicole McCabe, Wes Georgiev, Noah Simpson to an extent, it's like you tell them something, and it's like, they're like, oh, I already knew that. You know, and you're just sort of like unlocking it in their brain, and then they just start doing it. You know what I mean? It's like that intuitive side. You know, it's really interesting. So she was one of those people. I mean, I could talk about Nicole McCabe all night, but she's amazing. Yeah.
You play standards at that LA gig? Or?
Yeah, we just played tunes, and it was just this little place, and a couple vocalists sat in, and yeah, playing duo with her, just playing standards is great. But then you hear this is like super forward thinking. Like her band Dolphin Hyperspace is like I went. They paid for me to take an Uber to see them play with Lewis Cole. I got to play one song with Lewis Cole. If you don't know Lewis Cole, he has that band Knower. He's an amazing musician. And I got to meet him, and he said, oh, yeah, my father took me to see you play with Buster Williams when I was 14. I'm like, oh, isn't that something? He's like, yeah, I'm going to tell my dad that I met you. He's going to be excited. I'm like, I think you're the superstar here, you know. Anyway, yes.
All right. Well, you nailed that one. Yes, indeed, that was with Nicole McCabe. All right. George Colligan pick number 1. Here we go. Kerry, you ready?
No.
You got this. You got this.
Oh, come on. Upper Manhattan Medical Group. George Colligan. This is one of my favorites of his. Oh. Upper Manhattan Medical Group. George Colligan's great arrangement. I love this arrangement because it has 5 and 7 and 4. Like, it's one of the things that George really shines at is odd meters and really interesting rhythmic things. So I love the intro, and I don't know. I've always loved his arrangement of Upper Manhattan Medical Group. That's the only one that I'm probably going to get right.
Any of the other personnel you remember?
I actually don't remember.
Some heavy hitters.
Can you guess? The drummer can try to guess. Older.
Is it Ralph or
No.
No.
Your favorites.
He's on a million Steeplechase records.
I'm stumped.
That's good.
Okay.
And Drew Grass.
Okay. What year was this?
Maybe 97.
97. Did you have a chart for this, George?
I made them little charts. Yeah, I made little charts for them, but like, I mean, I think Billy doesn't like to wear glasses because he's a little bit the vanity. So I remember in the rehearsal, he was like, okay, how do you feel in the 7? We had to kind of pick it apart. But then he just went nuts on this. Like, and this was, I think, so with Billy, the more takes you do, the more crazy he goes. And so he just, like, the first take, I think he was trying to feel it. And then the second take, so with a lot of those steeplechase dates, you only do like 1 or 2 takes. For some reason, I remember doing multiple takes of this, and each one got crazier and crazier, you know. And so, yeah, this one was pretty wild. And I liked playing with him and Drew. Drew is amazing with drummers, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. It's like Upper Manhattan emergency room. Yeah. With that intense.
Yeah.
Wow, well, you nailed this one, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I listened to all your
I didn't know
albums.
you knew this record.
I listen to all of your albums, but I get very jealous and then I have to stop listening.
All right, well.
Yeah, sometimes I just have to stop listening to him because he's always composing in our office, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe like how brilliant that just was. Like, and then he'll be like, what do you think of this? And I'll be like, it's really good.
Okay. All right. Well, off to a good start here. So, Kerry Politzer, pick number 2. You ready, George?
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Let's see what you got.
Great. I feel like it's the obvious answer, which is Kurt Rosenwinkel. Yeah, and I don't know this record, but I mean, you know, from listening to Kurt so much, and I mean, I'm wondering who the other players are.
This was recorded live.
Really? Wow. Great sound. Is it Aaron Parks?
Yes.
And it's not Jeff Ballard, is it? No. So who would it be? Is it Eric Harland?
There's an Eric in there, but
Oh, yeah. There's an Eric.
The drummer's name is Eric?
No, not the drummer.
It's not Eric. Is it Eric Rivas on bass? Really? Wow. Okay. Let me try to guess the drummer. Marcus Gilmore or no? See, this is where you just get into the process of elimination. It's not Brian Blade.
Equally influential, I would say.
Something about the way the snare is. It's like a kind of a gimmicky snare. It's not Eric Harland. It's not. I give up on the drummer.
He plays with Christian
Greg Hutchinson?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, not at all.
That was sweating for a minute.
You know, now for the rest of the night he's gonna be like,
Yeah, that's great.
I was gonna say it's either Kurt Rosenwinkel because there's a couple of guitar players that
sound like him.
you wonder like I mean my friend Tom Garner sometimes goes in that zone, and there's another guitar player named Brad Shepik who's a little bit in that
Lage.
zone, and Lage Lund, yeah.
And there's a.
But I mean this to me is like it's all the way in there. So.
Yeah. And you did a record with Kurt Rosenwinkel, right?
I used him on a record, Unresolved. Yeah, that was before he was famous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unresolved, that's a beautiful album too. I
Yeah.
really love that one also. And Runaway, and there's so many albums.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. All right, Carrie, here we go. Next one. George Colligan, pick number 3.
It's definitely like on the more modern side, but I don't know a lot of pianists who play with such a lower register thing. Like, you know, that's kind of coming out of, you know, like Monk and Bud Powell using that really lower register. I don't hear a lot of pianists really banging out the lower register like that. So that kind of confused me. Yeah, I'm completely stumped. I'm sorry.
It is the drummer's date. It's a Bill Stewart date. The record is called, I forget what the song is called, but it's called, the record is called Space Squid. Space Squid, and it has...
Who's on piano?
It's Bill Carruthers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this playing.
and it's Ben Street, who you know.
Okay.
It's hard to hear bass sometimes, but the saxophone. Think 90. He's another 90s.
Like Mark Turner?
Close.
Chris.
In that zone.
Seamus.
Blake.
Okay,
Yeah.
Seamus Blake. Okay.
So I figured you would know Seamus.
Seamus.
Blake. So because I think with Kurt it was sort of, he played with Seamus. He also played with Mark Turner. So I think maybe the Kurt Rosenwinkel band ended up being Mark Turner more for the records, but I think Seamus initially was playing with him a lot. So and they're different but similar. You know what I mean? So a lot of those '90s tenor players,
He didn't have
Chris
like
Cheek,
He didn't have like kind of like that sweet sound that Mark Turner has when he goes up really in that high register, but he still used some of the register. Yeah. And Mark Turner plays in a really like arpeggiating kind of a way.
Yeah. But I kind of just wanted to do it because I mean, Bill Carruthers to me is like super underrated and very unique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, indeed.
yeah.
Well, that was good.
It's not a competition. I just was something I wanted to hear. I thought it would be
No, it's great to hear your thoughts on the music, even without knowing who they are. It's sometimes it makes it even more interesting if you don't know who the musicians are.
Yeah, I saw there was a blindfold test with Kenny Barron. I don't think he knew who any of them were. He was like, "Oh, that sounds great."
Yeah, that's
I
my
give it
answer.
5 stars. Whoever it is. Yeah.
And then Judy Heath.
Judy Heath did one.
Did you see that? Oh, yeah, I
No.
think it was jazz. It was just he just bashed everybody. I mean, it's kind-heartedly, but
I never played with Tootie Heath, but I did this gig in Uruguay with Christian McBride. This is like 20 years ago. And there was one night where like everything got rained out because it was like the rainy season, and like we were all sitting around, and Tootie Heath was holding court. He was so funny. I mean, he's very adult humor, but
very much so.
he had everybody in stitches. It was unbelievable. I think he kind of canceled himself because he would say anything, and as he got older, he would just say anything, but he was so funny.
Yeah.
Elliot is pretty funny.
Oh yeah, Elliot
Elliot
is really
like the
funny.
funniest person in the world.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Moving along. This is Kerry Politzer, pick number 3.
I know this. This is Watercolor. Yeah. I love this record too. I'm not on it, but I love this song. I mean, this is Scott McLemore, and who's playing bass?
I think it was Dan Fabricator.
Yeah. I love how Scott plays on this.
When was this recorded?
This was recorded in Brooklyn at a studio that I believe doesn't exist anymore, because this was a really long time ago. So this album and then the very first album, Yearning, are the only albums of mine that George is not playing drums.
Really?
Yeah, so that's why.
So Carrie's tunes have a great, there's a lot of harmony. She knows a lot of harmony. And most pianists can really go into a harmonic zone that other instruments maybe don't. And, and this the Brazilian influence is there from a compositional standpoint, not necessarily the rhythmic thing, but it's like, Brazilian music really has beautiful melodies and harmonies, So, yeah, to me, this melody, just the melody on its own is great, but the chords also are pretty amazing too. And then the fact she can solo over it so easily, her ears are tremendous. And if you ever go to the 1905 to hear her group, she does this thing where she plays piano and scats, and it's just dead. It's like what George Benson does or what Kurt Rosenwinkel does, but her pitch is dead on. And there's nobody certainly in Portland that can do that. So, but yeah, I love this song.
We're going to record this next month.
Watercolor?
Yes, we're going to go to New York and do a very special album. Hopefully it'll turn out well. So
Who else is on it?
we are going to
We'll talk about that in a
We'll
minute.
talk about that in a minute.
Okay. All right. I hate to stop it, but this is beautiful. Well, that was easy, George. Okay. This is George Colligan pick number 3.
Mhm.
Okay, you ready? Not a competition.
Where's the time?
Andy Bay. So this is one of my favorite singers. It's not, I guess, I don't know what albums this is on. I mean, it's not Ballads, Blues, and Bay.
Shades of Bay.
Shades of Bay. Yeah, I love Andy Bay. I just love, he just had the most beautiful tonality to his voice. And he's also the most incredible accompanist of himself. Like, just as a pianist, I think, to my mind, there's no better vocalist pianist than Andy Bay and Shirley Horn. Like, they're comping, their piano playing, their expression, their phrasing. I don't know, I could listen to Andy Bay all day long. Just such a beautiful bass tone to his voice, and yeah,
I'm
love
not
it.
sure if he's still alive.
No, I think he passed away.
Did he?
I didn't get to see him, so, but yeah, one of the most beautiful.
He's definitely very old, but
Beautiful, Andy Bay.
Are still
Indeed.
unspoken.
Yeah, he is like the very best piano accompanist for vocalists I can think of, right? It's so impeccable.
Some other time.
Some other time. Some Other Time is a very favorite song of George's.
Really? Interesting.
Just when the fun is
The lyrics and
He can
or just to play?
sing it.
I actually sang the song at my mother's funeral. Clearly not as well as Andy Bay. Plus, I had to, my mother did a lot of outreach in Baltimore. And so there was like a gospel choir that came to her funeral and sang. I had to sing. I'm trying to think, was it before or after? Did I have to sing before or after the choir?
I can't remember. It was all
Yeah,
kind of a
I was
blur.
like, because I wanted to do it, and then I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. But, it's your mother's funeral. What are you going to do? So.
Did you accompany yourself too?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I just wanted to do it, and,
I actually recorded it, I think.
Oh. Well, hopefully that recording doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I love the song.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Mike Bernstein.
you have a song, another song from Carrie.
Yeah, the last one. So
There's so much more embracing.
Okay.
can I give George a hint for the last one or no?
Do I need a hint?
Sure.
Do I need a hint?
You might.
Let me
need
listen to it first.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe
he's
you won't
getting-
need-
he's
you won't need
getting-
a hint, yeah.
He's getting arrogant.
He won't need it.
Let's see.
It's Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
You remember there was a TV show called Name That Tune?
Yeah.
And they would they'd be like, I can name that tune in one note. And they're like, da. They're like, tie a yellow ribbon? You got it. How is that
That's
possible?
No.
It's all rigged.
Well, this one's not rigged. This is all authentic. All the trials and tribulations have been real on this episode.
Okay, let's
Are you
see.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. This is interesting.
That was beautiful. I'm stumped though. Is this somebody that I would know?
Yeah.
It's a theme for the night.
Oh, it's Jaleel. Okay, yeah. Okay, wow. Yeah, Jaleel Shaw. Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Is that from a recent album? Or?
Echoes, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, at first I was like, I know how much you love Jimmy Giuffre. And at first I was like, this sounds like something Jimmy Giuffre would do. But I'm like, well, wait a minute, it's alto. So then I sort of was like, waiting for other instruments to come in and waiting, But yeah, Jaleel's amazing and unique player, and he's in a way he's kind of a great compliment to Mark Turner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's definitely coming out of that kind of that cool school a little bit, But he can do anything, Yeah, so he's going to be on the record that we do. In addition to one other
The
special
Watercolor?
guest. We're going to record in New York. He's going to be one of the people on the record. And there's
Amazing.
another
Oh,
person.
man.
And so when you play the next one, we can talk about that.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Okay, last one. George
Yeah.
Colligan pick number 4. Here we
What
go.
else did you do to me? Oh, come on. All right, minor blues, Kurt Rosenwinkel. Okay, he did not completely kill me on this, so. Thank you, George. Okay, you know what? I'll buy you dessert. So everybody plays this song. So when we were in Winnipeg at the University of Manitoba, like they taught the kids this song, remember?
Yeah.
Like everybody plays this beautiful song. And the cool thing about it is the chord progression, like it does something really interesting in the last few bars, right? And first, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things about it. One is it has a killing bass line, right? It's just beautiful. And then I guess we're going to get to the chord that I think is really cool. And then this over here especially. That's really, really interesting. You don't hear a lot of blues progressions that do that. This is like one of my favorite albums. I love all of Kurt's stuff. I mean, I listen to it probably as much as I do George's stuff, like Enemies of Energy, The Next Step, now Undercover. There's Berlin Baritone, this beautiful solo album. Obviously, there's like The Remedy. There's There's a really great standards album called Into It that's coming out of more of a cool thing with him. And then he had an album called Hardcore that recently he just re-released, like remastered or something. It's like an acid jazz kind of a thing with also drum machine on it. And and I got to see him play at the Montreal Jazz Festival once. But when I lived in New York, I would go hear him at Smalls all the time. When I lived in Boston, I would go hear him play all the time too, because like everyone in Boston was like, "Oh, I gotta go see that." I mean, I would see him play at like restaurants and stuff before. Yeah, like play standards, and I've always, and he's an amazing pianist, and I would say like my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to say. My two favorite musicians. They might be you and Kurt Rosenwinkel, and Wayne Shorter, I guess.
So Kurt is going to be on the record that we did.
Oh my gosh. Anything else you want to tell us?
It's going to be Kurt, Alex Claffey, Jaleel, and myself.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping that everything goes well. That
How could it not?
Well, yeah.
I've been very, very anxious before a recording. So.
And it's all your tunes? Okay. Well.
And then the only one that we're re-recording from early on is Watercolor, because I don't know. I love Kurt's harmonic concept, and there's a couple of songs that I composed a long time ago that I was kind of thinking about his concept, and like Watercolor came out of like Richie Byrack. I was studying with Richie Byrack, but also thinking about Kurt's harmonies, because he does harmonic things that nobody else does at all.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, Kurt was the winner in today's blindfold test with 2 entries. That's incredible. Wow. So when is this recording happening?
Early May. Yeah, it's basically going to be like the most whirlwind trip. We're going to leave, record, and then come back in time for the kids to get out of school. So we do have somebody staying with them. We're not letting them stay by themselves, but it's just. I hope that we make the plane, and that I don't screw up my own tunes.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And George, you're on drums. Oh my gosh!
So we played with Alex Claffey at Mesro last summer, and so I got to know Alex Claffey's playing a lot. He's such a melodic bass player, very creative, and he really hears things that surprise you. He's not, there's some bass players who just, they're just playing the roots, or they're just, ding, ding, ding. And he's like playing all kinds of melodies and hearing reharmonizations on the fly. It's kind of amazing. And an incredibly soulful player as well.
And how did the Kurt thing happen?
So Alex plays with Kurt, and so I guess. And then did Alex?
Well, he gave me Kurt's information, and I reached out to Kurt. I mean, like I said, I've known Kurt since the '90s, and I actually recorded one of his tunes. I think even before he recorded it. His
Number 10.
Number 10.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I remember going to his apartment, and I asked him for a bunch of tunes, and.
And now he released a whole book of his compositions, so you can really see how his mind works. I mean, I've been kind of listening to them and playing along with them, but now we have the definitive volume of his compositions, and he has a whole academy now, and like a record label, Hardcore Academy, and
Hardcore Academy,
yeah, and
he's not in
Berlin.
Germany. He's still in Berlin. Yeah. Oh wow, amazing, yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know Kurt personally, but you know about that interview, the famous interview at Nice.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't.
It's kind of a disaster of an interview, but he just comes across the most egoless, sweet guy to this interviewer who's just kind of
clueless.
Oh, but the interview was it like he didn't know anything about him or something?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him, and there was a part where he says, so you pretend to play modern jazz?
It's become a meme. Right? It's really funny.
It's just like a meme.
This rings a bell. It rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like in person is a great guy also as well as a great musician.
Yep.
Well, that's a wrap for the blindfold test. Before we go, please tell us what's on your calendars, what you got coming on. You mentioned a little bit. Any
I'd have to
projects?
look at my calendar.
Yeah, his calendar is ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm going to San Francisco tomorrow to play at Mr. Tipples with a Brazilian influenced
Mm-hmm.
group. And then the following week we have a tribute to Yvonne Lins at the 1905,
Oh,
which
wow.
is presented by
Yvonne Lins.
Mount Hood Jazz Festival and KMHD, and
Mm-hmm.
we continue to do that almost every month.
Wonderful, yeah.
And I know in August we're going to Vancouver to play at Frankie's.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that my calendar is a lot lighter than his.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is taking my kids around the world.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm doing 1905 on May 2nd, I believe, right before we go to this trip. I'm doing a night where I play piano with vocalists, and I invited 4 of my favorite Portland-based vocalists. 3 of whom, well, 2 of whom were my former students. One is a current student, and the other one is someone my age. So it's going to be Jimmy Harrod, Ziana Malata, Devastate Phelps, and Holly Resnick. And so we'll do a couple songs, the favorite ones that I do with them, just piano and voice. So it's kind of a night of vocalists, yeah.
At 1905?
Yep, at
Oh,
1905.
wow.
And then
They're kind of different.
they're all different, yeah.
They're all different.
They're all totally
yeah,
different, yeah. Let's see, what else am I doing? I'm going to New York in June to play Smalls on the 25th, and then the 26th I'm doing Rochester Jazz Festival. I have some gigs with Nicole McCabe
Okay.
in June in LA. What else?
What's your...
July I'm doing the Centrum Jazz Camp to Port Townsend, then doing the Oregon Jazz Workshop. Doing Dizzy's in New York on August 27th, I think.
You have to send me an email with all of this.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
Kerry,
you.
Thank
George,
you.
it was a pleasure. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again sometime
Yeah.
together or
Absolutely.
with other guests.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank
Sure
you.
thing.
This was a real thrill. I'm honored that you did this. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, we'll wrap it up with Trading Force.
Yeah, let's play a song.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll play a tune. That's a wrap, everybody. Thank you all for joining us on our first episode of Trading Fours. What did you think? Love to hear your thoughts. Please leave us a note in the comment section. Criticisms, comments, suggestions. Love to read. I'll read all of them. If you are interested in seeing us continue our efforts, some of the easy and free, effortless ways you can support us is by viewing this video, sharing it online, subscribe to our channel, connect with us on social media, and sign up on our ultra-secure mailing list. If you're interested in supporting us financially through donations or advertisement, I'd love to talk to you. Please send me a message directly. A huge thanks to Jordan Henline at 88.8 Film and Photography, Bridge City Studios. Big thank you to Chuck Israels for our theme music. And of course to Kerry Politzer and George Colligan for joining us today. All the links are in the description of this video. Please go check it out. Enjoy the music. And until next time, please keep supporting live music and live musicians. Take care.